Hi everyone, David Aragona here for the November 6th edition of Horses to Watch, where we take a look back at races from the last week, trying to find some horses that encountered adversity in their trips and could be worth betting back in the future. Well, we'll be staying at Aqueduct last week and this upcoming week, but it technically was the end of the Belmont at the Big A meet. As racing resumes this week, it'll be the Aqueduct meet for the foreseeable future, the next several months. But wrapping up this Belmont at the Big A meet, we're going to talk about 4 replays from last week, a mix of dirt and turf races, 2 on the dirt that actually horses with pretty similar trips, and then 2 on the turf towards the end of the show. Let's begin with one of those dirt races from last Thursday, Halloween, October 31st. The 5th race of the day was an auction restricted maiden race with the optional claiming tag of $50,000 attached for 2-year-old fillies going 6.5 furlongs on the main track. Let's break these runners from the gate, focusing on the number 2, Central Casting. And you'll see she breaks about 2 lengths behind the field for trainer Rudy Rodriguez. This was a second-time starter who hadn't done much running on debut, but you could see does some real running here after that poor start. She rushes right up on through on the inside and is actually going all the way up to contest the pace, but her jockey Ruben Silvera trying to keep a lid on her to prevent her from just running off through that whole inside of her stablemate. Actually, the number 4 Frankie Hiccups also going out for the Rudy Rodriguez barn, but as soon as Central Casting gets into this pocket behind the leaders, you can see she is still traveling very keenly. Ruben Silvera has to have a hard hold on her all the way around this far turn. And even here, you could see she's trying to run up on heels a little bit. He still has this strong tug on the reins as he's trying to keep this filly from doing too much at this point in the race, still racing in traffic. And right here, searching for a path, trying to determine where to go because he still has some horse underneath him, one that wants to do some running. And right here, he makes the decision to angle towards the inside. That's a difficult position for a 2-year-old to run on through. Quickly has to rethink it as the stablemate moves over in front of him, has to angle towards the outside. Just an eventful trip for this filly. And even here, you could see she's hanging on her left lead, not really striding out to the wire, but still trying gamely all the way to the finish, ultimately going to get up for third in a close photo there. Now, as you might have noticed, she was wearing blinkers for this race, actually her first time wearing blinkers. And I think a big reason why she was so aggressive in the early stages of this race, and maybe a reason why she broke a little slowly, was just the unfamiliarity with wearing that new equipment. Hopefully next time out, she can break a little bit more sharply and still show that early speed that she displayed when trying to rush up too aggressively in the early stages of this race, because this was a big step forward from her first start to this second start that we took a look at. And I think there is enough talent here to be competitive at this level moving forward if they continue to write these races through the later autumn months. Let's move on to a race from the Friday, November 1st card. This was the second race of the day. It's a $12,500 claimer going 6 furlongs on the main track for older horses. I mentioned these 2 trips would look pretty similar, and you'll see that as we break these runners from the gate, focusing on the number 3, Nolo Contesto, an older horse, so not 2-year-olds like we just took a look at, but another one that does break slowly. You can see he breaks about 2 lengths behind the leaders here, and that's a difficult thing for a horse who does do his best running when he can be somewhat forwardly placed. And you could see Kendrick Carmouche gets pretty aggressive after that slow start, tries to rush up and regain that lost position at the start to get all the way up into this 4 to 5 horse duel down the backstretch, and kind of a precarious position when you're dueling between and just a little bit behind horses. And right here, you can see he's got to quickly back out of that position as the horses do his outside, kind of converge down towards the inner rail heading into the far turn. And he basically has to lose that position and steady back into that 4th spot, or actually I think he's 5th, as those are 4 runners dueling up on the front end. And from here, he's just behind horses, taking kickback. Remember, he broke slowly, already did that work to get up there, then lost that position for the second time in the race after doing so at the start as well. And here he's on his left lead. You can see that kickback coming back at him. Not that he's racing greenly or anything, but that's just not a spot horses are going to want to run up towards. And Kendrick Carmouche is going to pretty much ease up on this horse, just some light hand urging onto the wire, as the race clearly did not go according to plan. This was Nolo Contesto's second start since being claimed by Rob Atras. The first race off the claim also didn't go great. He was in a 5-horse duel that day as well and actually ran very gamely to finish third, fading a little bit at the end. Things went even worse this time. I think this horse is in better form than it might appear for the Atras barn, and one that is likely to do better at this level next time, provided that he can get a cleaner start. Let's move on to one of the turf races that I want to talk about. This is also from that Friday, November 1st card, the 7th race of the day. It was a first level allowance race for the 3 and up runners, going 1.1 miles on the inner turf course. And we're going to focus on the number 7, Bring Me a Check, as we break these horses from the gate out of that chute on the inner turf. And you can see Bring Me a Check breaks fine, gets a bump from the inside as that horse that's actually right to his inside gets sandwiched between horses there. The big problem with Bring Me a Check, though, is that after that slight bump, his jockey, Katie Davis, just makes the decision that she's not going to be aggressive with this horse at all. And that's a curious decision, because this was a horse who has done some of his best running towards the front end. And this was a race that ultimately goes to the front runner, the number 1. It's all coming together, is going to wire this field on the lead. And you do want to note, when you take a look at some of the past performances of these horses coming into the race, that Bring Me a Check, who we're highlighting, had actually finished just ahead of It's All Coming Together in their prior starts, when Bring Me a Check had gotten an aggressive ride, forcing the pace. Not the case here. And you could see as they headed into that clubhouse turn, Bring Me a Check got stuck in the 2 to 3 path, racing on the outside. He's going to proceed in the 3 path, down the backstretch, and more importantly, into that far turn. And as they start to round the far turn, you will note that he has poor cover. And what I mean by poor cover is that while he does have a horse in front of him, it's not a horse that's going forward. He's actually following that horse in the green silk. So you can see already coming under a ride that is the longest shot in the race, a 45-1 shot. So Katie Davis, instead of maintaining that cover, is forced to go 4 wide now to try to go around that tiring horse, losing not only momentum, but losing added ground by going wider at the time of the race when you want to be cutting the corner inside of the top of the stretch. And by this point, you can see there's not a whole lot of closing going on. The eventual winner, who was leading early, has snuck away from the field, and Bring Me a Check will just be hopelessly beaten, never getting a trip. That was never going to work out in this race. Like I said, he's a horse who had been in better form prior to this. He had actually finished ahead of the winner in his prior start, and I think he is one that would benefit from a much more aggressive ride if they come back going this distance in the future, though he is a horse that has more versatility than just running 1.1 miles. I think he had got a mile in the prior race. He can go to sprint distances as well, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a slight turn back in distance if Mike Maker can squeeze in another turf start with Bring Me a Check before the end of the season. Let's fast forward to the Sunday card at Belmont at the Big. I'll skip over Saturday. You might want to note, if you're watching replays, I did see a minor rail bias on the dirt on Saturday, but nothing so significant that I wanted to highlight horses that were against the track. Maybe just something you want to make a note of if you're watching trips from that Saturday card. But let's talk about the last race from Sunday, November 3rd, the 9th race of the day. It was a New York bred maiden special weight for the 2-year-olds, going 1.1 miles on the turf course. Let's break these runners from the gate. I'm going to focus on affiliate actually facing the males in this race, the number 10 Tahila. And you can see right at the start, she gets bumped from both sides a little bit. Nothing too significant, but something that might not be ideal for a filly that was actually stretching out from sprint races. And you would have expected in handicapping this race that she might be a horse that was up towards the front end, contesting the pace, having shown tactical speed in her sprints. But once she got that bump, she was kind of forced to take back, and you can see she is not too happy about being towards the back of the pack behind a fairly moderate pace. And Manny Franco, he's preventing her from getting too rank. He's not really steadying at any point, but she is just pulling. She's keen. She wants to do more than she's being allowed to do, and she's just finding herself having to sort of settle into position, going at a slower pace than she really wants to go. Now, from here, the trip actually it improves a little bit. She's able to save some ground. Manny Franco gets her over to the inside, doing all the right things that you want to orchestrate for your horse after a poor break. When she's a little out of position, what you want to do is just save as much ground as possible, try to advance up the inside, and he's making that happen right here. But he's got a lot of horses in front of him, some that are going to tire. This is a race that does feature some trips from other horses that you might want to highlight, but I do want to focus on Tahila, because not only did she have that trouble trouble at the start and getting a little keen early. But at this point in the race, when, as I said, he's doing the right thing by trying to save ground, he's going to stick to the inside and try to find a path through between horses they come to the top of the stretch here. And you can see he does well to cut the corner here, but he's going to try to make this run through tired runners inside. That's a tricky thing to do, especially with 2-year-olds who are inexperienced. And right here, trying to split rivals, but the number 11, who is setting the pace of 50-1, is going to kind of back up in his face. There's no path there. He's got to angle around that horse after briefly tapping on the brakes. Now Manny's trying to come through between horses, but at this point, the race has already gotten away from him. It's over. The filly's actually running on pretty well through the wire, just really didn't have a chance to get involved given the way things transpired. I think she's a horse that actually might have the versatility to go 2 turns, even though she started out as a sprinter. She's by Union Rags, who I don't love as a turf sire, but does get runners that can go 2 turns more so than sprinters. So I think she does have the versatility to go this far. She's just probably going to have success doing so when they can be more aggressive coming out of the gate and use that tactical speed that she showed that she possessed in these shorter races. So those are all the horses to watch for this week. If you want to follow any of these runners moving forward, you can add them to your horse watch on DRFTV.com and get email notifications when these horses are entered back in the future. You can also go into your DRF formulator or Timeform US PPs and make notes about these horses using the notes feature in both Formulator and Timeform US. And those written trip notes that you make will show up in these horses' running lines when they are entered back in their future starts. Everyone, thanks for tuning in to Horses to Watch this week. I'll be back with another batch of replays to analyze next week.
Hey, let me give you a hot tip. If you liked the content that you've seen before, click on the like and subscribe button right here. And of course, for more DRF videos like Race of the Days, stakes previews, click on the videos right here.